congrats on making it this far, and hopefully that your journey is going to continue on. This is the Jeffrey?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Gotcha. So this is the first month of the capstone portion of the associates program. So you're going to be working on a project and designing a level, and this is going to showcase between Project and Portfolio 2 and Portfolio 3, you're going to end up with two nice portfolio pieces, and that's going to be the ending point of the associates. And then from there on, you can continue on with the bachelor's degree. So what we're going to be working on this month is going to be a overall individual assignment, but this is going to lead into an overall team project. So we're going to be learning some new programs and some new software, as well as doing some creative assignments as well. So one thing to keep in mind with this class is throughout the entire track, throughout all 4 weeks, there's going to be technical assignments and creative assignments. There's really going to be a balance between the two to test these new programs we're learning, like Perforce, as well as a bigger understanding of Unity, doing a little bit more in there so you actually can build the level that you're going to be designing. So throughout the month I'm going to showcase what exactly is going on, what other students have done, just so you can see the progress along the way. And also you on campus people will be sharing a lab with the Project and Portfolio 3 students. So you're really going to be able to see these teams that are coming in where their projects are after level design. So you're really going to get a big sense. You're going to be able to contribute to their designs, as well as get some feedback from them now that they've gone through this experience. So really I want you to see the whole picture first. Before you start designing this, before you're coming up with concepts, see the whole vision, where you're going to end up, and that way it'll really clear everything up. So you're going to start out doing basically just coming up with concepts, and you're doing your LDD. If anyone has looked at FSO already, the first assignment is you're just coming up with ideas. This is your chance to be the idea guy that so many people think is out there in the industry, but doesn't quite exist, right? There's no job where you just come up with ideas. But this brainstorming assignment, you get to come up with a lot of concepts, and then from your LDD, focus that down and figure out exactly what you want to have in your level specifically. What are the setups you want to be working on? Then from there, you're going to be building a flow chart, which the flow chart is an experiment to get your ideas organized again, right? It's just another concept of brainstorming, but this is more for the map. So for the flow chart, you really want to organize your ideas to know how the player is getting from one area to the next. How are you introducing these mechanics, and how are they using them throughout the level? And then finally, the final portfolio piece is the map itself. So you're creating a 2D map inside Google Draw to showcase exactly what you want to happen in your level, and how it's visually spaced out. So the map is the very final step, because all it shows is visually how it looks and how everything is going to flow from one to the next. So it takes a lot of planning, but by the time you get to your map, you're going to have a really good idea of what you want in your level, and you're going to very easily be able to showcase it. And then we're going to have some time to revise that and improve it. So throughout that, we're also going to be doing some technical assignments in Unity. So I know that the first week of this class, the first even 2 weeks, is a lot to do. There's a lot of, you have to get caught up on the creative vision, and there's some discussions to do, as well as do your brainstorming in your LDD, and then also the visuals and settings. So the first week, there's a lot to take in. So definitely when you guys come to the lectures and you watch these videos, because I'll record all these and post them for you guys to watch as well if you want to review them later. Definitely come to these and just be prepared to learn new information and to be engaged and participate. So the first class we're going to go over Perforce. So does everybody have Boot Camp on their computer? Everyone has Windows. Awesome. Super good to hear. So everyone also probably has Perforce installed from Design Tools. Messed with it a little bit. So now we're going to actually be on a server. We're actually going to be connected to a depot. Before, you guys were just, you were seeing the interface, right, and interacting with it locally on your own machine. But now we're all going to be sharing a depot. So let's get into it. We're gonna go over some technical stuff today, and then at the end of the lecture, we'll do some creative. So question?
Yeah. So this is regarding professionalism assignment.
Yeah.
So a lot of us, at least from the class last month we had, we checked our
Yeah?
on Monday, and there were no assignments there. And then the next day when we checked again, you're already late for professionalism.
Oh, the professionalism starts at 100%, so it's all reductive.
We can't submit it.
But everyone should have a, if it's not already, I can make sure everyone has 100 if I haven't graded them already.
I just want to make sure because I accidentally got a late on my discrete math one document professionalism points for that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll make sure. Yeah, that shouldn't. Yeah, I had, because of the holiday, I didn't get them in. I didn't get the assignment set up until like late. But I'll go ahead and give everyone, because it starts as 100, and then you'll see like the ILA assignments and the discussions. If you don't complete those are like taking off of professionalism. But yeah, everyone starts with 100 and it's reductive. Other question?
Two things. One is my Windows side like crashed my last class, and I couldn't get it back working. And I'm trying to see if it works now because I haven't tried it. But my mono develop won't close, so it won't let me actually switch over.
Your mono? Okay.
Yeah, it's saying that I need to close the mono develop, but it won't close.
You can't. Can you force? You're on the Mac side.
And it won't let me quit or anything. It just keeps jumping up and down.
Can you hard restart your computer? You just like hold down the power button. You can just hard restart it.
What's the button that booted up in Windows?
When it's starting up, you can hold Alt.
It keeps saying to continue shutting down, quit mono develop Unity, but it won't let me quit it.
Yeah, maybe search for it in Google or something. Try and find an answer there. Yeah, we'll definitely get that taken care of, and we can look at specific things like that in lab. So we'll just make sure we go through, the ins and outs of Perforce. So everyone online, all the online students are going to be using gdnresource.fullsail.edu:1337. The campus students, you guys use gdnperforce.fullsail.edu:1337. So that's the server address. I'll go ahead and write that on the board, and I'll type it in the chat for the online. That is intentional, yes. That was our department chair for final project.
Yeah, when you click the start menu button, just type in P4 and it should come up.
I deleted mine because I hated it.
Well, I mean, that was your first mistake.
Alrighty, so first thing you'll do is, so everyone should have a username right now. I created all of them yesterday and updated the announcement, if anyone saw that. So your username is going to be the first part of your email, your Full Sail email address. So everything before the @ sign, that's what your user is. And then next thing you want to do is create a workspace. So this will be blank. So you go ahead and click New, and this will probably prompt you for your password, which everyone right now is password. You can change it if you'd like to. So then you're going to see here this name and root, right? So what's important to understand with your workspace is it's just a folder on your computer. That's all a workspace is a folder structure. And same thing with the depot, but the depot is shared. Workspace is your own local copy of it. So here we want to just find where we want to put our root, right? So I recommend, and you'll see this in the instructions, don't putting it in a user. I've seen sometimes a user get corrupted or deleted, and now you can't access that. Not a big deal, but it's just something to work around. So in the instructions we have C, P4, and then just your name, your first name. And then you want your name to match the root, right? So the name and the root should be the same. Then you can go ahead and hit OK. And then no, it's password right now. So once you log in, you can go ahead and change it if you'd like to. Question? Yeah, you just go ahead and type this in right here in the server address.
Is that a colon before the?
Yeah, it's a colon 1337. So now you have your workspace created. You can go ahead and hit wrong one. workspace. So I want you to go ahead and get signed in. Hopefully everyone can get access. You'll see the Perforce interface, which should be already a little bit familiar to you. You should already have seen this layout before. So you'll see over here, these are your depot and workspace tabs. So as I said already, that the depot, this is shared among everyone. Everyone will see the same thing here. Everyone's going to see the depot. And you'll notice that the difference, how Perforce points it out, is that they make these icons blue, and in your workspace, these are that yellow manila color that you'll see very similarly to, just a file explorer on your computer. Right? Very similar color to associate. These are local on the workspace side, just like these, and then the depot, these are blue. So everyone should see the IND folder as well as the scraps assets. Question?
Can you go back like a couple steps?
Sure.
I was trying to get my windows up, so I just now typed in the server.
It's okay.
And what am I supposed to put the user as? Because it's not working with my name.
It's the first part of your full sail email before the @ sign.
The scraps.
I'm like right after this part. I don't know.
I still have to create a folder.
Great hold.
Create a workspace.
Yeah, you hit OK on this, and I took you to the other.
I hit new
Oh, you hit new on that. Okay.
to create a workspace.
What was it called? FS Perforce 1?
No, this is your name.
Okay. So that's just whatever we name our folder.
Yeah. So if you hit new, in the instructions, it's going to tell you to do C. This is what we'd like to see, a C, P4, and then just your name. And then this will be your name right here.
I use the first part of my folder.
How do I change that?
I mean, that's okay. That's all right. It's just, we want you to understand that this is just a folder on your computer somewhere. Once you understand that, you'll see when you go ahead and do this, Perforce creates this long, they basically take your username and then do work PC and then some random number.
Yeah.
And we don't want, if you go ahead and hit OK, it's not going to be anything wrong with that, but it's just, you want to understand what that is, especially when it's your first time, actually interacting with the depot in a server. Go back to this. So this is the location, right? I can just hit browse here, and I can select a folder on my computer. It's just another way to do the same thing. But if you just type it in, it's just going to create it for you.
What's the password?
It's password right now.
So basically, you don't really change much.
No, you just change the name and the root. All right, is everyone able to log in? No?
I'm trying, it's saying that my workspace thing, it says no such client. When I'm clicking OK, it says.
Does your name and your root match? Are they exactly the same? Yeah, make sure your name and the root are the exact same thing, because it has to reference each other.
I'm just at the part where I just first open it says server user workspace.
Yeah.
And it says no such.
Did you click new to create a new workspace? So click new on the workspace. And now you have to make the name and the root match. So here, just delete all this stuff and put C, P4, and then your first name. And then put that same thing right here.
Would it be better for the root to have the CP4 and all? Because I have right now user name desktop.
I prefer that, me personally, and that way it doesn't matter what user you're into. I've seen some real weird cases over the last few years just teaching this class. I've seen all kinds of problems or things get lost. And one guy just had his user deleted. He someone, it was like on his computer or someone else's, his user accidentally got deleted or corrupted, and then he just lost his workspace. Not a big deal. You can just create a new one. But that was one thing that we kind of ished away from, just putting it into a direct user, as well as on the or on the desktop too.
Make a new workspace then to have that specifically instead of
Mhm.
the other folder.
All right, so everyone able to get in, log in now?
What's no such client mean?
That probably means that your name, the name and the root aren't matching,
Yeah, it's from.
or your username isn't.
I don't have that many.
Just
Wait,
my
no,
first
you're
name,
not supposed to have that many.
too.
So all right, so you should see the IND2 folder, 229, and inside there you'll see the 1606. So this is where you're going to be working throughout the month and also submitting your files. So you'll see the section 0 folder here. Inside there you're going to see compiled and working. Right, so compiled, you open that up, you're going to see these are all of the folders where you're going to turn in the assignments. So these are labeled just like they are in FSO. So we're not going to be using FSO to turn in the assignments. We're going to be using Perforce, just so everyone gets practice submitting files and you get comfortable with the software. And also because we're going to be submitting EXEs for some assignments. So that way it can be really easy to grab them and play them, as well as you can grab your peers and play through them as well. So that's the compiled folder. The working folder, this is where you're going to be submitting your Unity project. So everyone is familiar, you know what a Unity project is, right? So don't make the mistake of just thinking you can send a scene and everyone will get what you see in the scene, right? You need everything in the project to be contained. So you're going to be creating your own folder in here and putting your Unity project inside of this. All right?
Would that be the entire project folder or a Unity package?
An entire Unity project. So the Perforce interface. Over here, right, so the depot is on the left. Here's the workspace, these two tabs. Make sure, too, that you actually have a workspace selected. It's pretty common to where sometimes if you don't, on that login screen, if you don't select a workspace, Perforce will let you log in, but you need to actually have a workspace selected here. Very common thing I see where I'll just look at your screen and it can immediately tell you have to have a workspace selected there. So also another trick is if your window looks anything like this and you want to see that side pane, well here if you go to view, right, you can see like history, pending change list, all these other things you may need. So I go to pending change list and nothing comes up. It may be because it's snapped along the side like this. So just take it, go ahead and drag it over and you'll see these tabs. So you have a little bit of familiarity with submitting files and checking things in and out. So let's walk through that process a little bit. So the first thing you'll want to do is go ahead and get the latest of this section 0 folder. So it's a good thing if you do it right away before anyone submits anything, you're just going to get a clean folder structure. So you can just right click on section 0, right, and get latest revision, right, and that's just going to copy everything from your depot, from the depot over to your workspace. So all get latest revision is doing is copying all of your files over onto your machine. So now you'll see another helpful thing I use all the time, and you should definitely get in the habit of doing it, because honestly I never use this workspace tab, barely ever. I like to just stay on the depot side and leave it like that, and then just use right click, and towards the bottom there you see show in, and so here you could show it in the workspace tree or you could show it in an Explorer. So all this is going to do when you click show in Explorer is just going to pop open a window and it's going to go to that exact folder, right? So I can now open section 0, compiled, and now here's all my stuff. Here's where I could turn in my assignments. So I can go into working. There's my folder there, but say I want to, let's add a new file. So what you guys will be doing, all the students will be doing, is coming into this working folder, and first things first, you're going to add a new folder. So let's just add, let's go with Barack Obama. Not yet. So and go up in here, and then let's go ahead and create a new let's create a new text document, right? Just do contact info. So all right, now I can just double click on this, open it up, and let's say it would be a Bob Obama at Full Sail. So you just put in some contact in here as Skype. All right, and then just go ahead and save this. So this is something you probably pretty much right along the lines of what you did in design tools. Very simple, just creating a document and submitting it to Perforce. So now if we go back over here, so with new files, right, you can go over to this workspace tab, open up here, and now we see that new folder, right? So I can drop this down, and there's that new contact info I just created. If I go over to the depot, I don't see that yet, right, because it's not on the depot. It's only on my local computer. So there's that Barack Obama folder right there, not on the depot just yet. So what's important to understand, though, is it's showing up in the workspace tab, because all this is a mirror of your folders, right? So everything that you're doing, you're going to see in this space. So now we want to go ahead and add this. So one quick tip, and I don't know, I know some of the resolutions are strange with Perforce. You may have to adjust your settings, but you'll see these icons right here. Definitely start to pay attention to those and start to understand them. They're a really good visual shortcut that I really like that Perforce has that not too many other, like I know like Bitbucket and Git and like Source Tree have little icons like that, but I really like Perforce's detail that they put in those. So also, if you link, this is on the playground assignment itself, but this user guide, where if you go to the help, this will pull up for you. This is really helpful you don't have to read the whole thing, but definitely understand that it's here for you as a resource if you get stuck or you just need to Google something or just search for a specific issue you're having. Also, I really like it for the icons itself. That's one thing that I would definitely read through these and just, maybe bookmark this icons page specifically. And that way you can see if you see something strange like this yellow triangle or the red question mark, what that actually means. It'll help you out and make sure you don't get too stressed out or frustrated because this is new software. I understand that. It's brand new for a lot of you, and now we're going to be taking it a step further. But definitely a really important professional tool that you'll really be using the rest of your career. And if it's not Perforce, it's something very similar to it. So this white piece of paper here, you'll see this is a file in the workspace, but not in the depot. I see a hand?
Oh, you're going over it now.
Okay.
If you wanted us to upload the contact information.
Yeah. So here you're going to see that this is a file that's in your workspace and not in the depot. And this other one that we see here, you'll see is very common, it should look like this now once you get the latest, is that it's a piece of paper with lines on it and the green dot. This means that you have the most recent version of that file. You have it synced to your workspace. So now we can come back over to our contact info folder, and there's a lot of ways to do the same thing in Perforce. There's one thing that I like to do it a few specific ways just because I have paranoia about dragging and dropping and certain commands. But now you can see that when you select a folder, all these icons up here change, right? Depending on what it is. See if I can find one that. There we go. So like this one, I don't have the option to add or revert, right? But I could check it out or delete it, right? But this new one, right, I have the option to add, right, or something else like this. So I can select this folder, right, or select this new folder here. I'm just going to click this mark for add, right? So what this does is this is adding it to a change list. So by just adding it, that doesn't mean you're adding it to the depot. That's just basically, it's like going to the grocery store and you're putting a bunch of your items in your shopping cart. You're just adding them to your cart, but you're not actually doing with them anything yet until you go and check out. That was an analogy I thought of on the way here, so hopefully that sticks. So it's just getting it ready to submit it. It's not yet doing anything with them, right? So this window comes up. Super common. This isn't a text box. You can't type in here. This just shows you if you already wrote a description in here, it'll show you that description already. So because you can save them and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And now you'll see that, the icon changed, right? Now I have a little piece of paper with a red plus sign next to it.
What if that window doesn't pop up?
It should. It didn't? Did the file get added to your change list?
It changed.
Yeah,
Okay.
should be.
It's pending, it's just
That window never came up? It may be, did you select the folder or the file?
the folder.
Yeah, it may, it should be there, especially if you only
Well,
have,
no, it's in the pending. It's
yeah,
just-
that window just never came up?
Change list on it, it didn't pop up.
That's odd. Not too sure about that, but definitely look for that whenever you're doing any submission, because what change list it's going to, it can matter, but you want to pay attention to that. So if you don't see this pending list, again, you can come to the actions, or sorry, view, and here's history, pending change list, things like that. So that was one way, right? That was I used the button there. Another way, so I want to back this out. So how do you remove a file from a change list? Maybe I accidentally added the wrong file. Well, I can right click on this and do a revert files. Right? This is just going to remove it from that change list. So it's just maybe I made a mistake or didn't want to submit that file. Right? So here it is again. Now it's just in my folder here. So yeah, I can use these buttons up top. I can also right click and mark for add. This is usually my go-to, and probably a lot of the instructions it says right click on this, do this. There's a lot of other ways to do it, but I just prefer right clicking on the specific thing I want and doing the command from there. Also, another way to do it is you can actually take this folder and drag it onto your change list. Yeah, mind-blowing, right? So that's another way all to do the same thing. So now it's marked for add in there. Now all I want to do is right click and submit. So this window should come up now, this with this right to description. And now definitely, for a lot of these setup things, you don't have to write paragraphs and long descriptions, but understand the point of this is that when you're working on a team of 5, 10, 20, 100 people on a project, if something happens to like a script or something in your scene, you want to have very detailed notes every single submission. That way you can go back and say, okay, I know that this was working in this revision because it says I worked on, this, this, and this. So I'm going to go back to that one. So being very descriptive when you're working in Unity projects specifically is really important. So here I'm just going to, write a short description because Perforce won't let you just leave this blank. You have to write something. All right, so then I hit submit, and then that should change this to that green icon. You'll also notice now this revision number over here. So this is version 1 of 1. And now also in the history, you'll be able to see basically when this was changed, the revision number, who submitted it, and then the description, right, that comment I just wrote. So let's see. All right, see all right, awesome. I already got a bunch in there. Good stuff. A lot of people already in there. So now say you want to go in and, edit this, right? So here's my example, my contact info. So I want to go ahead and make a change to this. Something you should already be familiar with already, right? So I'm just going to go to this file and check it out. You can do right-click check out or right-click check out and open. Right? This window, basically what change list do you want this to go to? I'll just keep it with the default one.
I again didn't get that.
Marcus, on the bottom, there's a thing that says don't show this dialog again. Probably
Oh, yeah, it could be you could change it back in your settings. So there I want to say put my office hours or something, or say class schedule Monday. All right, so I want to check it out. So now that it's checked out, I'll be able to actually save it, right? So when you're checking out a file, you're marking it to be edited, right? Because when it's on the server like this, it's read-only. Your computer is going to look at these files as if they're read-only. So when you check them out, you're basically saying, I'm working on this. I'm going to be changing this. So I go in there, make my changes, and now I can come back to Perforce after I've saved it and closed it out, and just go ahead and submit. Can't type. All right, so now you'll see this says now has 2 of 2, right? There's 2 versions of this. And here in the history, I can see both the first version where I basically added it. You see that little plus sign? And there's that check mark there where I checked it out and worked on it, right? And there shows my descriptions. Here I added the, that was when I added the file. Yeah, and then there I just updated it. So that's how you can use that workflow to check something out, work on it, and then submit it to Perforce. Pretty straightforward, right? Any questions at all about that? Still can't get in? Alrighty, so let me put.
How did you, so I checked it out and edited it, and then, I don't know what happened.
Well, then what do you need to do from there? After you check it out and edit it, what's the next step?
Upload it, but
Yep.
is it the same process?
Yeah, yeah. So it should be in your, right, it's in your change list now. So you can right click on the file and submit. You can go up here and hit submit. You can go on change list itself and hit submit. All right, so another common mistake I see a lot, so definitely understand the difference between being in Perforce and just on your computer. So say I go over to the depot and I want to go ahead and, all right, everyone's got their contact info, so I'm going to go ahead and get them all so I can look at them. All right, get latest revision. Now I see down in the log it says 10 files added.
Mine's not there yet.
It's okay. I'm just showing this as an example. So now I see all these, right? Now I see all these contact infos in here. So I'm like, all right, cool. But wait, I didn't want all of these. I only wanted, you know, the last 3. I didn't want everyone. So very common thing. You're like, oh, crap, these are on my computer now, but I don't want those there. So I'm going to come to my workspace, and I'm going to go ahead and mark for delete. Well, when I go ahead and do that, when I mark for delete, look at what happens. It adds them to a change list like you're going to delete them from the server. So don't do this. I promise you, you're not deleting them from your computer. When you're doing this, anytime you're in Perforce, whether you're on the depot or the workspace, when you do these commands, it's doing it to the depot. So if you want to delete something from your computer, so again, I don't want to delete this. If you ever accidentally do this, does anyone know what I need to do to undo this? Cry a little bit, yeah. I'm sure that may happen. Yep, revert, right? Just back them out of there. This window will come up, hit revert. So if I want to delete them from my computer, all I want to do is come to this file explorer. Where'd it go? It's hiding on me. And just delete the ones I don't want, right? So I only wanted the last 3. So delete these ones. So now I come to Perforce and refresh. See, now it's only showing those. So very common thing I see. You don't ever want to delete them from the depot. I mean, unless you actually want to delete these files, which could be possible. But that's a very common thing I see is you accidentally get everybody's project and you don't want them, so they go to Perforce to delete. You always want to delete them from your workspace. So now, say I was like, oh crap, well I actually did want those files. I want to get them again. But if I look on the depot and you see these files, it says I have the most recent versions. But you guys all know I just deleted them. Also, if I go ahead and do get latest revision, it added one file because someone in the room had probably just added it, but it's not getting these other files. I go ahead and do get latest, and let's go look at it in Explorer. You see I'm not seeing everybody's. I just see a few. I'm not seeing everyone's there. So that's because Perforce thinks I have the most recent revision. So this isn't like impossible to fix. It's definitely able to fix this. So this goes into the difference between get latest and this one down here, get revision with the 3 dots. So I go ahead and hit this get revision. This window should come up. So this is basically specifying here. So I can get the latest revision, or I can specify it using a certain change list or revision or date and time. So this is really helpful if you're working on a project and say you have a teammate that's been straggling all week and they're like, all right, I'm going to submit my work on Friday night, you know, and the assignment's due Sunday. So they submit it last minute and they get everything working, but then something breaks. So you can go back and say, okay, I know at 10 o'clock in the morning everything was working. So you can type in 10 a.m. the exact time that you want to get everything from, and and get it specifically then. So this is really helpful to use. Just know that this is there. If anything ever breaks or you want to just get everything from a certain, here you could do a change list number. You just type in the number there, or the revision number, right? We showed that in the history over here. We showed those revisions. But what you want to do to just, if you want to get the latest, how you made this mistake, right? This force operation checkbox, right? So you click this checkbox, and you'll hear it says in the parentheses, replace the file even if you already have the revision specified. So all this is doing is copying everything over with basically brute force, and just Perforce is copying everything again to make sure it's all fresh. So you already see it's synced, and now I updated files, and it looked like someone maybe had removed something. So now I have everything most recent again. So that's the difference between get latest revision and get revision. All right, any questions at all about that? Can you see why that could be helpful? Yeah, question?
Because only some of us updated it.
What do you mean?
So the latest, like when we did get latest, Cameron's and mine were there. That's because we checked it out, edited it, and re-edited it.
Yeah, that was because
the ones that weren't there weren't.
Yeah, the ones that were the same from when I deleted it, it still thought it was the same. So it updated a few because it was a change.
So if you had, you already had the existing list, and then we took it out, edited it, and then re-uploaded it. And then you did get latest. We replace the ones that are.
Yeah, it'll replace them because now you'll see. Before, I don't know if you caught it, but there was a point where it had version 1 of 2. So then when I do get latest, it gets updated to 2 of 2. So now I have the most recent. Another helpful thing I'll go over is the difference between rollback and get revision. Or sorry, not get revision. What's the one he shows you? Yeah, get revision. So in design tools, doesn't he show you get revision, and you can specify by a revision number? So this is how you could say I want to get revision 1 of 2. So this is helpful. I see why he's showing you that. But I would excuse me. I definitely rather you understand rollback. So he showed you rollback. So rollback is basically I can go back to version 1. But what this is going to do is create a new version, right? So 3 is just going to be a duplicate of 1. That's all it's doing. So when he's showing you get 1 of 2, it's kind of strange to then change the file and submit it. It's almost like you're doing a rollback in a roundabout way. Question?
Yeah, do I have to worry about somebody accidentally deleting my shit?
Yes, you do. In this class, you do. So everybody has access to this working folder, and if I see, like, I can see the history. So if I can see someone's maliciously deleting someone else's work, or you go in there, and I mean, I'll definitely pay attention to that, and there'll be consequences if you're screwing around with other people's stuff. So definitely be professional about this. But yeah, notice that everybody in this section 0 folder, you guys have read and write permissions. So maybe I shouldn't have told you that. But yes, you're able to adjust things in there. But as long as it's on the depot, if someone ever does delete it, it's not like it's gone forever. We can get it back. We can restore it, and that's the power of Perforce. Some people have recommended to me that I've asked future students, what can I do to make my class better? And they say, go in there and screw around with our projects, like delete our projects, make us get it back. So I'm not going to do that, but I've seen it happen in past months where someone accidentally will delete, like what I just showed you. Like, oh, crap, I got everybody's entryway, and I didn't want to see all of them. So go ahead and they delete them all. So then it's like I go to grade them, and they're not there. So it happens. It'll happen, and it's okay. It'll be a good learning experience because not quite. I've got everything situated. But definitely understand that this class, all these assignments are small and contained, to where if something happens, you can quickly rework one of the Unity assignments for the most part, and like same thing with the experiments. You're able to work on those, so if something happens, it's okay. These assignments are contained and individual for that reason. So when you get to level design and project and portfolio 3, you've already had experience and you can work on one Unity project throughout the entire month.
It would be really smart to keep your own save files.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, especially when you're working with Perforce. If you wanted like every day or every other day, like make a zip of your Unity project or put it on a flash drive, put it on Google Drive, that's definitely never a bad habit. Like even if it is using version control or not, like having that is a great thing to do.
Have local backups also.
Definitely, yeah. So let's go over some of the stuff for the class, and then we'll get into the rest of this. So, all right, so you guys see the Section 0 folder, and everyone see this IND229 content folder? This is where you'll see after the playground assignment or after the first weeks, I don't even have the assignments on FSO anymore because I like Perforce, and the Google Docs are amazing for being able to update things dynamically. So you may even see me being there editing assignments just to improve the clarification and make it easier to understand. So here you'll see these are some folders, but then these are the assignments themselves. So they're all URL links, so you can just very easily double click them and it'll open up a tab in, question?
I don't have those.
You guys don't see that folder?
I just have like,
That's not compiled and working.
yeah, I just have compiled and working.
Are you sure you guys you're looking on the depot tab and you don't see it?
Do you want to bring out, do you want to bring out my laptop so you can see where we're at?
Yeah, let me just look at your permissions real quick.
Automatic zeros.
Dude, don't scare me.
You must pay another month.
All right, how about now? You see it? All right, cool. Alrighty, so inside here, right, these are all your assignments. And then do you guys also see this? You should, if you didn't see it now, you should see it now. If you didn't see it before, you should see it now. The Scraps Assets folder? Yeah? Cool. So it's a subfolder. You should see it's outside this IND folder, the Scraps Assets. So the project template, we're going to get into that. But the Scraps Asset Depot, this is pretty much just a compilation of pretty much assets we've found online, that we found on the Unity store that were free, that some of them I've created, some that Mr. Gazaway has created, the other instructor that you'll meet later today, and some of them have been donations from students. So it's really just been a compilation of things that we found because we don't want you spending time, building things. Like, you can build stuff of your own custom, and you can like find things on the internet, but we want you to spend as much time as possible designing. Oh. Just gonna run this. So the asset, I mean like actually going in Maya and like modeling bricks and like modeling pieces of wood. Yeah, you got.
I will live a happy life by never touch mine again.
Will be a little Maya this month. Let's see if this isn't.
I already forget how to use Maya. I opened it last night.
So on here, I don't know. Let me change my play. Duplicate. So on here, this asset demo. Yeah, you may just have seen it. And the asset depot is pretty large too. So if it takes you a while on the server, it may be better to do like off campus, especially the first week when there's a big activity on campus. So this is an EXE you can pretty much run through and just see all the assets that are available to you. So you don't have to download everything and import it all. I mean, you can, and people do that all the time, but be careful with all the space. You don't need all this. You don't need everything. So you can come in here and take a look at all the assets and just get a feel for what we've got available.
Do you know why the lighting does that? It disappeared.
Yeah, I just closed out of it. Why the lighting does what specifically?
So so like if you don't load an exe file, or even if you did, for like a project well, we created the scene, then we had to switch to another scene. And when we switch to the other scene, the lighting just disappears. It's like
It gets really dumb.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the setup that you have.
doing the same thing in the assets.
Well, that was just one scene there, but I know what you're talking about, and we actually have a fix for that in our project template to where we have basically a lighting system that will, as you enter one scene and leave the other, the lighting, yeah, it adjusts for that. So the project template, this is another thing that you're going to be utilizing. So definitely pay attention to this part, and you don't have to necessarily follow along for this because it's I mean, you have to get the files and then upload them themselves. So I want to just explain some things in here. And then this is what you'll be working on in lab. So you'll be setting up the template and then also making an exe. That is your assignment for the playground. That's besides the other things, but the contact info is taking this project template and putting it in that working folder. So so quickly, I've got in here I made my working folder. Here's me, Andrew O'Connor. So I want to take my project template and I want to basically make a copy of it and put it in this folder. So I'm going to go ahead and show this in Explorer. And here's my project template, right? I copy it, so I'm just going to go ahead and, actually, I've already opened this. Yeah, so let me do a little black magic. So this is what you'll see, right? So you should see these three folders in here. So now I'm going to go ahead and just copy this. So, Control C in here, and now navigate to my my folder, 1606, working. There's me, and I'm going to paste it in there. All right, and now I'm just going to go ahead and rename this. So this is the project that we're setting up. This is what you're going to be using all month long. So don't like make a new project for each assignment. Something very common I see, because we have stuff in here that you need for your assignments. We have a player character. We have some things already set up for you. So now that you have it copied over, let's go ahead and open it in Unity before we submit anything to Perforce. Let's see what the project looks like. So one thing to keep in mind, this is a good transition point, is here these assets and project settings. And you saw me delete some files before I copied it over. And you'll see what Unity does when I actually open a project. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my assets, and here's my scenes. And now here's the hub, right? So this hub level and the danger zone, these are two important scenes that you'll use throughout the month. And then here's this IND, this is our month, and then this is level design. So this should show you, you're going to be using this template or this same project across multiple classes. And I work with the level design instructor and the Mr. Gazway, the Des 3 instructor, to make changes to it as often as we can. So if you're retaking this class, you'll definitely notice that things are different from that they were last month. We've made some changes already. So it's always an evolving process. So now you'll see that you'll down here, Unity is loading. I'm opening up the project. If I go back out, you'll see that these folders are being created by Unity. This library folder and temp folder. And these will either be the bane of you or these won't bother you at all. These folders are local to your computer. So that's why we can copy that project over, and as soon as I open it in Unity, these folders are being created. So what's important to understand is Unity is constantly changing these library and temp files. So if I open up this library folder, there's all kinds of metadata, all these files. I don't know what this stuff is. I'm not going to ask you guys to understand this, but what you do need to understand is that these are local to your computer. So if you put this library folder or this temp folder onto Perforce and you submit that, so what Perforce is doing, if you go back, Perforce is marking those as read-only, right? So Perforce is going to mark all those files as read-only. So when you try and open up Unity, it's going to try and change those library files, and Unity isn't going to have access to them because Perforce has them locked. So what do you think is going to happen? Yeah, Unity just doesn't open. Unity just won't open. It's going to say library metadata failed, and it'd be like 00011, like slash numbers. You'll see that error. It'll happen. So what's important to understand is we don't ever want to have those files on Depot. We don't ever want to submit those to Perforce. That's why you'll see in the template, we just have the assets in the project settings. So project's almost done about here, importing and building everything. Another thing you may notice, and we'll definitely talk about this more when we submit some stuff, is that these metadata files down here, right, are these .meta files. So these are just basically even a folder, right? This is the ASCORE folder, and this is the ASCORE.meta. This is just a data folder, a data file. So if I go into here, into my scenes, you'll see every single asset, every single file in Unity has a meta file along with it. So it's important to understand that those exist, because you also need to have those submitted to Perforce. So an example of what one actually entails, I'm not exactly sure, like the file, like the folders, what that information contains, but like a prefab or like this terrain asset. So like a prefab, if you have like an object that's a model and a script and a collider and a bunch of different things, maybe like an audio source on it, that metadata file contains all of that information about where those other things are located. So if that's not there, the prefab is just going to break. So it's important that the metadata files, the meta files are getting updated as well to Perforce. So here we go, open up my Unity project. So here in the project, you'll see we have some stuff in here for you already. So first things, you want to go into the danger zone and play around. Get a feel for the controls as well as the character. Let me go ahead and maximize on play. So here's our character. We got a little third-person controller, and we have this grav null available. So this grav null can basically interact with rigid bodies. So we're able to pick up objects and throw them, and this is what you're going to be designing a level for, is around this character and around this grav null system, and anything else that you can implement to further the experience. So to get a feel for the controls and just what's going on and what we have set up, this is just a little experiment room. Feel free to create something yourself. This is now yours to modify. So this month is we do a lot of experiments, and I'm expecting you to actually take the time to play with this and have fun. Like this is what you came to school for. This is what you should be passionate about. So definitely just have fun and just mess with it and get your hands dirty, and know that if you ever break anything, you always have the other project template to fall back on, right? That clean version. So here is just showcase. We have like a constant damage volume, and there's other things that you can look through the project and look around the area to see what we have available. And then also on Perforce, there is this README, project template README. This will basically just explain to you the controls, what we have included in here, everything that's available, and basically anything you may need to know is in here. Question? There is. All of this I've been talking about, this entire lecture, is all through Google Docs. It's all in the playground assignment, is all walking you through how to set up this project, how to copy it, things like that. All right, so there is that's the danger zone. So the hub, oh, do I have the wrong hub? Oh no, I done goofed. I grabbed the wrong template.
Well, at least you back up.
Yeah. What? Has anybody gotten the template already? Okay.
That's right. That's where you lost me.
One of my online students asked a really good question about if he wants to use Perforce on another computer, how would you do that? And if you're going to run into any problems, the only thing you need to do is you'll have two separate workspaces, right? So you could be like workspace, you can name it like, your name laptop, and then the other one like your name home computer. So you make sure that there's two separate workspaces, but then all you need to do is just submit the work to the depot, and on your other computer you just get the latest revision, and that will update everything. So that's how you can communicate between two computers, and that's actually a pretty good thing to practice, especially like get you in the habit of working like with a team or like communicating with another machine. So that's how you would do it. You would just need two separate workspaces. You don't ever want to have two workspaces on the same computer. I mean, you can, but I don't recommend it at all. But that's how you could do it if you want to, say, work at home on a desktop or something else. So this is what you should see in the hub now. That other one was the one we had from a previous version. So it looks like this just little pentagon. And if you hit play, you should see the same character that you have that we saw in the danger zone, right? And he's in this little hub level. So this is basically the connecting point. So from here, we're going to have other scenes and other we'll have other scenes and other little experiments that we're going to attach onto this. And you're going to use this in this month as well as in level design. And then after that, you have pretty much the ability to modify and change this and kind of go nuts with it as a team to make some changes. So everyone familiar with the multi-scene editing feature in Unity?
Like
No?
editing every scene at once?
Not every scene at once, but being able to edit multiple at once. Yeah. So this was a new addition from Unity 5.3, which came out, I think, the beginning of last year or almost a year ago. So it's very easy. Unity makes it really easy to basically edit multiple scenes. So it's really nice that we have these all set up for you. So these are the different assignments or different experiments we're going to be working on this month. So here you'll see the visuals and setting. This is the one that's due next week. So this is, you'll be working in this scene to actually do that assignment. So here's the wind turbine, that's week 2, entryways week 3, and rigid bodies are week 4. So these are the scenes you're going to be using throughout the month. So you don't need to make anything new. If you want to test something, fine, go for it, but these are the scenes that you can be using. So to do multi-scene editing, you can just drag these into the hierarchy like you would any other object. So I want to work on my visuals and setting, drag this in here, and you'll see that it pops up over here. It's just this, right now, all it is, most of these scenes are just a text volume, a cylinder there, and then I have in here a camera for you. So one thing to understand if you're new to the multi-scene editing is basically here it will show you that Unity symbol will show you the scene itself. One thing you want to always get in the habit of doing is right-click on the scene you want to work on and set as active. And you'll notice that it changes to bold to show you which scene is the active one. So now if I create a game object, it's going to get created in my active scene. Question?
Can you just drag and set the cube into the other scene?
I think so, yeah. Yep. So just be conscious of where things are going, because if you got to get in this habit of just working and building and creating stuff, you may get lost in what you're working on. So just got to be conscious of that. And you can move things around, but with this with great power, you definitely have to understand what you're doing. Otherwise, other things can cause problems later on. So now if I hit play, I'm able to actually come out and see, you'll see this little image here change. It shows you what scene you're loading in there. And then I can walk out, and here's this little text prompt telling me where it is, and this is my scene. So I'm able to actually play multiple scenes at once. So to make a build, what's important to understand is when we're doing this, we're just editing something. We're not making a build. We're not able to, if I save Unity, if I save this, go ahead and save my scenes and close this. And then come back and yeah, if I just come back and open it back up, it's not like those scenes are still there, right? That it's just, oh, it is still there. I lied. That's impressive. I didn't think it would keep that information. But what's important, what the point I'm trying to make is this isn't like making a build. So if I go ahead and try and make an EXE, right, you'll see it's just loading the scenes, the hub scene itself. We don't need these anymore. So what to do to actually make an EXE? And I don't know if in PNP1 you guys are required to make an EXE. You guys are now? I know he's, huh? For one of them? Okay, cool. So you're already a little familiar with making an EXE, so hopefully this is a review. But what we're going to be doing a little differently is we're actually going to be having multiple scenes in our build, and they're all going to be playing simultaneously. So the same way here, how when I hit play, that you load in and you see multiple scenes, we want the same thing in our executable. So, and the reason we're doing this now, we're like, well, why can't we just make it all in one scene? I want you to get in this habit because eventually these separate scenes are going to be your own individual areas to a level, and you as a team, so it'd be 4 or 5 of you, I think teams of 3 to 6, but usually it ends up being about 4 or 5. You'll come together, and each one of these scenes will be your own individual student area, and then you'll tie them all together in one larger level. So we're just getting the hang of working with multiple scenes at once in very contained little experiments, and then we'll be taking it further later on down the road. So 2 things to keep in mind is we have this object here as this ASCORE level manager. So you can go ahead and load this script, so feel free to open up any of the scripts if you want. Don't mess with them or break them, but a good way to get in the hang of understanding what's going on is actually just looking at what's going on. And so this is pretty well commented that we're basically just, if it's the editor, or if it isn't the editor, load these other scenes additively. So this line right here is basically loading in these other scenes into our executable. So basically, here, in these scene names, we can tell it what scenes do we want to load, right? So right now we only want to load 1 additional, so we have to just go in here and type in the name of the scene we want. So there's no drag and drop functionality. We don't have that working yet. You have to actually type the name that you want, so make sure it matches exactly. So I'm just going to do visuals and setting.
So if we had 3, we put size 3 in there.
Yep.
The 3 names of
Would
the
it be
scene.
size 2 or size 3? Because the hub scene is already there.
The hub scene is 0. You don't have to worry about that one. This size is just basically how many entries you want in here. So this is basically, these are loaded additively as to in addition to the original one. So here is, we have that script in there, so it's going to load this scene, visuals and setting, I have it spelled right. So now we have it in our level manager. Now we also need to have it in our build settings, right? We need to have what scenes we want to build. So you can drag and drop if you want, and you can also just click this add open scenes. So if you have them open, it's just going to add whatever's there. So now I got those 2 in there. All right. So again, I'm just going to make the point so everyone understands. I'm just going to remove this from here so you don't see it in here. But now I'm going to go ahead and make a build. And now if you do this correctly, so this is what I'm walking through. This is like the final, one of the final steps to the playground assignment itself. So we're going to go ahead and hit build. So now it basically says, where do you want to make this build? So if you're smart about this and plan ahead of time, you can just go right into the compiled folder, go right into the playground, and now I'm going to create a new folder in here. So Connor, I'm going to name this playground. So pretty much that's the naming convention I stick with everything for this class is basically last name, first name, name of the assignment. That's the naming convention to stick to. So now I have this folder. So I'm going to go ahead and then do it, name it in here, what I want my executable to be named. So you're not actually building a playground. I actually have a submission I wish I could pull up. Actually, I think I know whose exactly it was, that he basically built a playground and turned in a camera looking at like a kid's playground. No, this is just a playground for you to work on your assignments, to test things, to experiment. So now it's going to go ahead and make a build. And it shouldn't take too long because these scenes are pretty light right now. All right, so there we go. There's my build. It popped up. So this data folder, this is also really important. You need this data folder for this executable to actually run. Again, this isn't something I know exactly what all these files do, but I know you need them. And if you don't submit it to Perforce or you don't have this with your executable, it just won't run. So now I'm just going to open this up, and definitely make sure you test it. Don't just make it executable and submit it. Actually test it and see. So now I should see, there's my visuals and setting, and I've got my other scene right there. So everything is looking okay. It looks like I have an executable with the multi-scene, with multiple scenes in there additively. That's really what I want to test you on for the first assignment. Question?
When you go,
That light change?
yeah, no, you see it flicker, right?
Yeah, that's actually because what we're doing is we have a directional light in each scene, and when you enter this volume, it's enabling one and disabling another.
So that light flicker is changing on the scene?
No, it's just the changing of the directional light. If we just had one directional light in there, it wouldn't do that. You wouldn't see a change at all. What?
Each scene has a different directional light.
I think, yeah, that was a change the level design instructor made. And that way it was because what we see happening is you put one in each scene, and then basically they are multiplicative on top of each other. So it just the lighting gets so blown out. So that was one thing that he actually just changed last week. So, but that just shows that that's what I want to see for the first assignment. And I have the visuals and setting in there just so because that's the first one you're working on. But really I just want to see another scene connected to it. Yeah, so before, for like last month, anyone that had taken this class before, we had the old hub had basically 4 little podiums, and you would load in all 4 at once. But we don't necessarily need to do all 4 at a time because we only work on one at a time in this class and in level design anyways. So we just want to see something else loaded in there to make sure that you can make a build with multiple scenes. All right, so so in the visuals and settings scene itself, I'm going to talk on Friday a little bit about the level blocking tools, which you may have seen. You're seeing everything in this scene with this grid pattern on here. That's these level blocking meshes up here. So feel free to mess around with this yourself. I'll go into a lot more detail on Friday about how to properly build with them, why they're better than Unity primitives, and how to texture them, logically and actually thinking it through rather than just slapping a texture on and calling it good. So we'll go over that in a little bit more detail, but they're very similar to the 3D primitives, but they have some upsides, and we'll talk about those in more detail on Friday. So in here, for the visuals and setting, your assignment is to create recreate an image that I've provided in the announcements, right? Everyone's seen that image? Right, so don't get overwhelmed and think, oh my God, I have to like model all of this. I have to create this. I really want to see scale and proportion. That's the 2 things I'm going to be looking at, and really just doing your best at it. So just look at the major structures. Let me pull up FSO. Just look at those major structures that you see in the image and try to build them as best you can in scale to everything that you're seeing. And this will definitely showcase that there's a lot more that goes into this than you think. Like you're really gonna see how you can develop a scene just based off of one image alone or off of a few images. So this is just going to get you understanding how to look at reference images and how to dissect them. So right, like these are just some cubes that are scaled up here. This little piece here you could make out of some wedges and some other cubes, or maybe you find some actual brick models and plug them in there to give it this cool shape. But look at these I-beams, right? These are all just long cubes, and it's just about the structure and the positioning of them. Same thing about this building in the background, right? Like this little slant here, that's just a wedge. This is just a few cubes around each other. This is probably a cylinder. And then we'll talk about how to actually get your textures to not look exactly like this, but to make the best of what we have available to us. So don't get stressed out and be like, oh my God, he wants us to be artists when we're designers. Like, no, I understand that. I'm not expecting you to make this 100% exact. I just want to see, effort put forth, and definitely just look at the major structures and the scaling of everything, and just do your best to recreate this.
Does this building need to be hollow? Because the door's open?
No, I mean you can build this. Well, it's a good question. Then it leads to like you can build this to what I want to see is just building it to an image. So you can just build it if you can. Like if things are looking ugly and weird in the background, that's okay. And that's almost like the difference between making something for a film and something for a game. Like in film, when you're like animating a character or doing an animation, it doesn't matter if the whole character's back is like distorted and broken, as long as whatever looks good to the camera. But in games, it's a little bit different because you have to build something that looks good from all angles. So you can start to, I'd really like to see you start to just think about like, okay, if I was a player and I walked through here and I look to the right, what do I see? Do I just see emptiness because you're building it to an image? Or are you actually thinking about how this whole little, maybe this is a little foyer and there's there's like another wall on the left side, right? And it's actually contained. Think about how you could actually turn this into a play space. So I'm going to leave that up to you, how you want to, like where you're going to put the information and how much detail. But just think about that if you were to see this in a video game or in a level like with our character, how could you contain that, or how can you make it feel like an actual space? So for that, definitely use the level blocking meshes. And I'm talking about this stuff a little bit this week because I know that because of the break, and I give everyone a longer extension on this assignment because it can be definitely time intensive. I've seen people work anywhere from 10 to 12 hours on this assignment alone, and it's just how much do you want to put into it. So I'd really like to see like a good work on it for one lab, maybe on Friday, all day Friday. Work on it and just like 5 to 6 hours. Just how much can you really showcase? And spend one day or one session just modeling it and getting all the objects in place. Spend one other day like putting textures on things and getting your materials looking nice. And then just take a few hours or a few minutes afterwards, like in the final day, to like put a light in there and actually get it positioned and get your presentation looking nice.
Say like I got everything down except like a few textures. Are you gonna grade that real harshly?
No. Like mostly I'm looking at the model, the objects themselves. Like I'm looking at the construction and like the scaling. Like if you're
Like I could get lost doing a lot of texturing, but
yeah, like start with the modeling. Let's start with using the level blocking meshes as well as some assets. Like let me go back to the image. Like on the asset depot, we have like some pillars and some I-beams. So you can go use those to block this out, or you could just use cubes and block it out and then, worry about replacing the mesh later. But really it's just the scaling and the structure is what I want to see, and how well can you just recreate this in terms of proportion. And use the character too. That's one thing that I don't like grade you on necessarily, but the character is there, and the fact that we're third person allows you to have this entity there to be like actually seeing, like if the player walks up and like their head is right here, maybe it's a little too large. Maybe you should think about just the scaling and how much you're biting off. So yeah, just focus on the meshes first. That's like the big weight. I think it's like 50% of the score is just the objects themselves. And then
like if everything's giant, that would be cool.
yeah, it's tough to say. It's tough to tell in an image, and it's not a big deal. You can tell more when you're in the game itself. So I've provided this camera in here, and you can do with it what you will. I like to. I come from a game art background. I'll talk a little bit about my own history before the lecture's over. But this camera I just provided there. So if you turn it on, you can just position this in a way to pretty much get it in place where you want your final shot to be, and that way when you go to take your screenshot, you can just hit play and your camera will be in place, right? You can position your camera how you want it to, and then really if you want to go that route and do it, what you can do is just all the stuff that's ASCOR, like the map, the message system, the health, and the objective list. You can just go ahead and turn these off, pretty much, so you can turn off the HUD. So this would be like when you're ready to submit it, just go ahead. Oh, I think the inventory I missed and the objectives, right? But you can just turn off the HUD elements, and that way you have a clean thing, and then you can just use the snipping tool to take your screenshot and submit from there. So you don't have to use that camera, but it's just there because it's nice to like have a fixed. Oh, this tilde is driving me nuts. So rather than like going in the editor and trying to like, all right, I want to like position it just like this, get it perfect, you have that camera. It's like, this is my shot. This is where I'm going to be taking the image from. So that's there if you'd like to use it. And then you can just, you don't have to delete anything, just disable all this stuff.
real quick, from Perforce, which package do I download?
For the,
To get all the scenes, to get all that?
all right, so you're going to download the project template
Right.
from Perforce.
But I'm looking for,
The Scraps Asset Depot is separate.
right.
It's a separate thing. This is probably pretty big. It's probably a gig or two. And then each one in each one of these subfolders is these other basically Unity packages.
Can we just drag that, the Scraps Asset Depot into Unity itself?
Well, you can look through the executable to find assets that you want to use, because I mean, if you drag everything in, it's pretty large. But you can do that if you'd like. I discourage it for now, but only use specific things. But then you can just right-click, import package, custom package, and then you just go to where it is. So content, nope, I lied, not content. Scraps assets, asset depot, and then import. Of course, I select one with nothing in it. So I want to import a crate. Import it. There it shows basically the mesh, the images, the material.
Main scenes that you just pulled up?
That's in the scenes folder.
And that's under project.
Yep, that's in your project. So then that crate I just imported, it's right here. Bam. All right, so we've covered the project itself. So now you want to submit your executable to Perforce, and you also want to submit the project itself. So for this month, when we're submitting our project, it's just to get practice. So please take this seriously and don't go the whole month without not submitting your work. Like, if you're working on your project late at night and then you come in the room and there's a glass of water spilled on your computer and you just lost your entire visuals and setting assignment, and you come to me and say, hey, I lost this, can I have another week to work on it? I'm like, yeah, what do you got on Perforce? And if you say you have nothing, I'm going to say, why aren't you using Perforce? So that's there for this month for those security. It's like this backup thing and just getting comfortable using Perforce, because I know it is new and it's intimidating, but you want to break it and make mistakes this month. You don't want to have that happen next month when you're actually working on your level. You want to give yourself time to experiment and break things and learn how to troubleshoot it when all these assignments are contained. So definitely come in here often and submit your work. So now that I've got, someone check out my working contact info. Somebody did, yes. So now what we want to do is submit our actual project. So now I go over to Perforce, Scuba Quest. All right, so there's my project, right? Because I copied my template over, and now you'll see in here all this other stuff, right? So what did I say about some of these files? Anyone remember?
What is it, library and temp you don't want?
The library and temp I don't want to submit to Perforce, because again, those are always being changed by Unity, constantly being edited. So if you put them on Perforce, Unity is going to throw a fit at you and not open your project because it doesn't have access to those files. And now you'll also see down here that these CS_proj files and this .sln file, those were created when I opened Visual Studios, and those also you don't want to have on your on the depot itself. The .sln file, I know that's like what runs the IntelliSense on your Visual Studios, your MonoDevelop. You'll have something like these for MonoDevelop as well. But these are like, .vs files or something, or the image of them is different. But basically, yeah, like here's the little Visual Studios images. But basically, like if you submit this to Perforce, it's like trying to write code in Notepad. Like you're not going to be able, that autocomplete and filling in, that IntelliSense is what's driven by these. So you also don't want to have these on here. So to add these, we want to go ahead and right-click on our assets and mark for add, right? Go ahead and add that. That's going to go into a change list.
Project settings one you want to add to?
The project settings we do also want to add, right? Because that's what holds like our player input, the tags that we have set up, the layers, a lot of stuff that we're going to get into. Important information about the project itself is included in the project settings. So yeah, same thing, go to project settings and mark for add. And this .vs, oh boy. Yeah, this .vs scene or file, this holds Visual Studio's information, so you can submit this one as well. So now this is a pretty big, my change list is getting pretty big. There should be about 1,400 files between the assets and the project settings. So if you see this as like 6,000 or 7,000, that probably means you added the library. So don't submit that. But if you do, not a big deal. All you have to do is just mark it for delete, and you should be good to go.
Mark it for delete or
Mark for if you actually submit it. If you actually go through and submit the file, and you try and open Unity and it won't open, you probably have these submitted. So now that those are there, I'm just going to submit my changes. And then just let Perforce do its thing. It's going to add those files. And that's adding it to the working folder. Afterwards, that exe that I created, you're going to go ahead and submit that into the playground, right? So this is where I'm going to be doing the grading. So throughout the month, I'm not going to be coming and looking at your Unity project. We're all adults here, so I'm hoping that you're going to actually be active in it and using it. So I'm not going to be micromanaging you and monitoring, make sure you check in. But do it every day, or at least every time you're working on your project. If you're, at the end of lab, if you just want to submit your work to Perforce, do it. You're not hurting anyone. You're just getting more practice and making sure your work is safe. So definitely get the practice this month. And yeah, so this is where you submit your assignments themselves. So your exe will go in here, and then I'll just get the latest and play through it. And then today in lab, I'll just mark you off once you have that completed. All right. So about the creative vision, so there was a lot of technical stuff thrown at you. So for the ILA hours today and for the first assignment, you want to go through and read the creative vision document if you haven't already. Have you guys taken a look at that yet? No? Okay, so that'll give you a good idea of what the game is that we're going to be creating. So this, the game is called Scraps, and it was designed by Mr. Gazaway. You'll meet him later today. But definitely very detailed, and we put some restrictions in there for your own good. Like, we don't want to have AI. We're not going to be designing and creating weapons in combat, things like that, and that's for your own benefit. Scraps is more of an environmental puzzle game with a different pace, and we'll show you some examples to get you inspired and motivated and seeing what other students have created. But you don't want to be creating too much, because remember, whatever you're designing, whatever you're coming up with, you're going to be building, you're going to be responsible for. So we don't want you to be focusing on AI and behaviors. That's a whole other class for just that topic alone. So you'll get to that later in the program, but make sure you read the creative vision and understand what it is that we're designing around. And before I let you go for lunch, the term setup or interaction, right? Another term, interaction. Anyone have an idea of what that actually entails? Like, if we were to write up some setups.
interaction in the environment or in the with the player?
Like, if I were to tell you, like, for your brainstorming assignment, you have to come up with 100 setups or 100 interactions. What would be?
Push a block.
Yeah, right, like some actual action, some type of, you should be able to read that sentence and visually picture what the player is doing in that sense, right? Like, I push a block to jump up to a higher platform to grab a collectible, right? Like, very descriptive, explains the action. Because in design, in interactive design, that's what we care about, is what the focus is, what the player is doing, what the action is. We don't care so much about the visuals. That's the artist's job. If the mechanic is a little buggy or something tends to break, don't worry about that too much. Really focus on what's the gameplay, what is the action. So really think about that when you're doing some of your setups. And in lab today, we're going to do a small little brainstorming example to kind of get you moving in the right direction. But really focus on that and really understand what that term means, setup, when we talk about that. When we say add more setups or think about reworking them, We're talking about the actual interactions that are going on with the player. Sound good? You guys super overwhelmed now with all this information blasted at you? Some? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It's a lot. Like I know the first week there's a lot to take in. I promise you that the work will definitely pay off, and towards the later end of the month you'll have some time to relax and reflect and really polish up your portfolio piece. But there's definitely a lot to tackle in the first week. So really make sure you're using your time wisely and read through that creative vision over lunch, and then we'll come back in lab and do a little brainstorming to get everyone on the right track. And then from there, after that, you'll just be submitting your playground assignment and getting your project set up. I'll make sure everyone's on Perforce, get your project working, everyone's good to go with Unity. And does anyone not have Unity 5.3 at least? You should all have the most recent version, but you need at least Unity 5.3 to do the multi-scene editing. I think if you go to Help, check for updates. Yeah.
Or help about Unity.
Yep. Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, at least 5.3. I recommend the newest version. I haven't had any major problems with 5.3.4. I think that's what I've got. Yeah, I'm at 5.3.4 F1. So I recommend, always just trying to stick to the most recent one. But yeah, you need at least 5.3. That's where they introduced that multi-scene editing.
Even though on 5.3.2, would be best
yeah, you can. Yeah, I mean it's going to matter more when you get on a team. Your whole team has to make sure you're on the same version. But as long as you have 5.3, you'll be good to go with the multi-scene editing.
There's the newest one that just released 20 May, 5.3.5.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. I'll grab that.
Should we download?
Yeah, you can. Feel free. So before I let you go, I'll just give you like a 2-minute little spiel about myself so you guys know my background a little bit. I also was a Full Sail graduate. I came to Full Sail in 2009, originally from Buffalo, New York. So came from the cloudy gray skies to sunny Florida and stick through it. I went through the game art program. So I have a lot of experience with modeling, animating, texturing, rigging, basically the art side of the game development process. And then after graduation, one of our program directors came into our final lab the very last week of class before we graduated and came up to us and said, hey, there's this internship opportunity in the game design program. And he wrote down an email address on the board and was like, if you're interested, contact this person. And it turns out I was the only person that applied for the position. People were so burnt out on Full Sail, some of my classmates either wanted to go do their own thing or go back home or actually just go work for that big company they've been dreaming for. I still wanted to network and learn and meet new people and have a job. That was pretty important to me. So I got this internship and that turned into a lab instructor position. I worked in Final Project for about 3 years, working in basically the very last class, the very tail end of the degree, working with Final Project teams. I was making art assets for them, working with the teams, networking, doing some of my own contract work on the side. We actually just recently, a few of the people, I'm still close with the Final Project guys, we just shipped a title for PlayStation 4 and PS Vita. So still got some shipped titles on my resume and still be able to network as well as have a job and kind of giving back and learning at the same time, right? I'm an artist, but I'll be showing you guys some scripting, and I've been learning a lot and being able to develop my technical skills even further throughout the years of being here. So, what?
Plus you get to stay in Florida.
Yeah, exactly. So I just thought I had a good opportunity and stuck with it. Had some experience, and then I was running the Perforce servers too. That was what I was really doing in Final Project, managing all the Perforce stuff there. So when we start to introduce it earlier on in the program, I was a good candidate to kind of teach this stuff like I said, this is a class, a really good mixture of technical and creative going on at the same time. So that's just a little bit about me. That way, if you have any questions about Maya specifically, that's like my wheelhouse and animating, things like that. We'll talk about textures and certain little tips and tricks I know that you can find useful as a designer. So you don't need to know everything about the whole art creation process, but some key things will make it so you can communicate better with artists as well as communicate your vision of your own designs. So yeah, that was a little about me, and you guys are free to go for lunch. So be back at 1 o'clock if you'd like. I take attendance at 1:15 for lab. So yeah, lecture I take attendance at 9 a.m. or as soon as I get here if I'm a little late. And then lab I'll take attendance at 1:15. All right? Any questions at all? You guys still look terrified and overwhelmed. Yeah?
Oh my God, so much information.
Yeah, I've recorded all this too, so I'll basically post the recording. That way, if you guys ever want to go back and just look at something or you miss some specific detail, I'll definitely have that available to you guys.